Welcome to our video tutorial here on solving equations involving rational functions. The first thing that we need to do when posed with a problem of this sort, and by the way we are going to look at two examples here on this video, is we are going to factor our denominator, or denominators. In this case there's only one denominator that needs factored. X squared minus 9 turns into x plus 3 times x minus 3. And we carry the rest of the problem through. Now, when we would have gotten a common denominator in previous problems, here's what we're going to do. We're going to look at this, determine what the common denominator is, and then we're going to multiply both sides of our equation by that common denominator. In this problem, the common denominator would have been the quantity x plus 3 times the quantity x minus 3. So we will show that we are multiplying both sides by that item. Now we distribute. So here on the left, the denominator cancels with what we're multiplying by and we're just left with x. Minus 4, the x plus 3's cancel. It's just going to be remaining with an x minus 3. And over on the right hand side, the x minus 3's cancel. And we have 2 times the quantity x plus 3. Now we distribute, so we'll have a minus 4x plus 12 equals 2x plus 6. And then like any other equation, we'll get the x's simplified first. We have negative 3x plus 12 equals 2x plus 6. Get the x's on one side. I'll get them on the right. That way they're positive. Get the numbers on the other side. I'll subtract the 6 from both sides. And then of course to polish this off we would divide both sides by 5. And our final answer is that x is equal to 6/5. Now the other thing we have to check is make sure that it doesn't make any of the denominators 0. But here our only problem spots would be if x was equal to 3 or negative 3. So this seems to be legit, and that is the answer to our first question. Now one item is worth emphasizing in that problem. Please, 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 please be careful. Make sure that when you have a subtraction problem that you keep that minus sign and that you distribute it with whatever number was up in the numerator. So on this one we distributed the negative 4 and we had a negative plus. Just watch for that. If you do it, everything else should work out okay. Now it's time for our second example. Here's the example. Now, a couple things. We are going to factor the denominators, and on this one, we want to factor a negative out front. When we do that, it'll be a negative times the quantity x minus 2. Factor our other denominator here turns into an x minus 2 and an x minus 1, and then we've got equals 1. Now we're going to take one more step here where we simplify things. These two negatives combine to be a positive. Make sure you catch that, and ensure that on a test or a quiz or any other assignment that you would write that properly. We'll have the x minus 2 plus x over those denominators equals 1. Now again, we're going to identify the common denominator, the least common denominator, and we're going to multiply both sides of this equation by that value, which would be the quantity x minus 1 times the quantity x minus 2. Now when we distribute that, we'll have the 1, the x minus 1's cancel, and this will just be multiplied by x minus 2, plus 2, the x minus 2's cancel, and we have the x minus 1 remaining. Over here, when we distribute, remember we're distributing this to each of the three terms. The denominators cancel completely, so we'll just get a plus x. Now over on the right hand side, be careful because we have both of those factors remaining. It's going to be x minus 1 times x minus 2. So now we simplify the left hand side, make sure to distribute the 2. On the right hand side we will FOIL those things out. And now combine our like terms over on the left. X and 2x is 3x, another x is 4x, we've got a minus 4. Equals x squared minus 3x plus 2. When it's an x squared, get a 0 on one side, get everything else on the other side. Ooh, and this one appears to be factorable. It'll be x minus 6 times the quantity x minus 1 set each factor equal to 0 to solve, we get x equals 6, we get x equals 1, but before we identify a final answer, we have to check to be sure they work. So back in the original problem, we can't plug in x equals 1. That's a problem spot. But x equals 6 doesn't cause any issues. So x equals 6 would be our solution. Make sure that you highlight it, identify it, circle it, make it clear. And x equals 1 is extraneous. It's one of those extra solutions that doesn't actually work. So when you're solving these rational equations, first, factor denominators. And take care of any negative signs that you have to deal with as well. Then, multiply through by your least common denominator. Set up and solve your equation. And finally, watch for any extraneous solutions.